Well, at our rate, parang 4 a year lang ho tayo eh. Yeah, so it's I think 4 from this year, 4 from last year.
What's our base?
4
What's our
from this year,
baseline?
yeah, because this is a new law, Your Honor. Relatively new law ito.
Oh, but
So
sorry, this is for ALS.
ALS ho.
But the ALS program is ongoing, di ba?
Ongoing ho.
It's ongoing.
Yes.
These are the ALS centers.
Yes.
So the ALS is being implemented
Yes,
everywhere,
sorry.
no, Secretary?
Yeah, I'm sorry I wasn't clear. That's for the centers ho. But for the clientele, I guess our goal is really to hit everyone who is an out-of-school youth. Of course, we may not succeed, but so we're trying to provide our teachers, kasi trabaho ng ALS teacher, umikot din ho sa komunidad at puntahan yung bawat barangay, sino yung pupuntahan yung mga bahay, magbabahay-bahay siya, tatanungin niya, bakit hindi ho nag-enroll yung anak niyo, yung mga ganun.
Yes. So the ALS program is being implemented everywhere.
Yes, Your Honor.
In all of our districts, no, school districts.
Yes, Your Honor. And one change we made this year also is we're going back to the A&E exam, yung what does the A stand for that? Accreditation and equivalency exam.
So they can move up, no?
So that allows them to get credentials and move up. Kasi during the pandemic, we suspended it for 3 to 4 years.
So ALS is implemented everywhere, but our centers are new. So we've only had 6 so far.
Yes, opo.
But the goal is to expand that to hit all of the provinces.
And to attract more yung theory nga na nabanggit ko, Mr. Chair, earlier, na pag nakita ng bata na maganda yung papasukan ko.
They'll be more encouraged to attend.
Sila.
Okay, how about sa SPED po?
Sa SPED, I think the goal there is to have, because the capacity for yung accurate diagnosis is still missing within the department, Mr. Chair. So pag tinignan mo yung number of SPED learners per region, per province, it varies depending on like if you look at, for example, Region 11, mataas ang number of SPED learners there because they've been accurately diagnosed. They have the professionals who don't. So, but in others, mababa ho ang diagnosis kasi they don't have the professionals. So one of our goals is to really fill up all the positions. There are hundreds of vacant SPED teachers. So I think EDCOM has been working to increase the takers sa CHED. How? By providing more scholarships. So ito po yung goal ho natin. And again, also to have these new centers, what they call the ILRCs, or the Inclusive Learning Resource Centers, which are really holistic, again, to attract, but manned by the professionals who really are capable of diagnosing our learners and prescribing the correct support. Pero there's, as you know, Your Honor, we're really short of, not just in the public school but also in the private schools, yung mga development pediatrician, for instance. Wala ho tayong ganun. I tried to get one for my son that took a year just to set an appointment, Your Honor. So you can imagine how it is in the further out from Metro Manila and the urban areas you go.
Secretary, what's our goal for SPED? Is it one per municipality or multiple per municipality?
It is one ILRC in all cities and municipalities, Your Honor.
So 1,400 something.
1,600.
1,600 something. Okay, and we're just starting that now, or are we converting the SPED centers into ILRC?
We're converting the current SPED centers.
So how many do we have now out of 1,700?
Converted. We have 32 converted already, and by the end of 2026, we hope to fund 53, Your Honor.
Only? Di ba, ganun ba, I mean, these are the SPED centers, right? Di ba may mga SPED centers naman talaga tayo? You only have 53? Converted. But yung SPED center right now na hindi pa converted, how many is that? I just want to know if, because Secretary, just to inform you lang, everywhere I go, it's classrooms and SPED. Ang laging nabibring up ng mga parents, teachers, and si classrooms, mukhang meron tayong solution. I'm trying to see if we can also find a solution for
this one is a little more difficult, Your Honor, because ang mahirap talaga yung personnel ho. Kasi I've been to a lot of schools where ang gaganda ng facility, pero sinasabi sa akin, walang teacher, walang yung trained personnel. So maybe the solution is something like what Congress helped us do with the guidance counselors. But let's not go for the 100%, which is the licensed guidance counselor with the master's degree. Let's go for the guidance counselor associates na may units lang. So maybe we need to find workarounds for some of these positions.
But I don't know the answer to this question. So if I'm taking up education, I can choose SPED, diba, as my specialty.
Yes.
And it's the same tuition fee as if I choose language or English, math, or is it specialized?
Yeah. there's an incentive kasi mas malaki yung sweldo pag
but we don't have takers.
wala kasi mas malaki pa rin yung sweldo sa ibang bansa ho. At
I
saka
see.
very much in demand ho. So
I see.
yun ang
Okay,
problema.
so it's the teachers kulang yung teachers natin. But in terms of the centers and SPED schools, if the target
Still
is
restricting
one,
the numbers
Okay.
with your indulgence, Mr.
okay, siguro just to
648 is the figure.
Okay, so a third.
Your Honor.
We roughly have a third of them. And is that part of the 10-year plan of DepEd to close that gap? Kasama po ba yon sa 10-year plan?
Yes, Your Honor.
By what year?
Within kasi ang ginagawa ho natin ngayon is we're at 16 a year ho eh. So medyo malayo.
1.6 or 6.0?
1.6 ho.
1.6?
1.6 times 10 is only 160. So that will take, at present speed, it will take
A long time.
several decades
Oo.
to meet ito.
And this is not, Secretary, hindi ba to part of our, so maybe I can rephrase the question. Do we know how many students are SPED students
About 440,000, Your Honor.
out of 23 million, right? 23 million learners?
Yes.
Okay. Yung Region 11 po na nasabi ninyo
Yes.
na
Just a random
accurate.
example ho, sir.
Ilang porsyento? Region 11, you're saying Region 11 was properly done, di ba?
Meron lang silang, I guess, because, they have hospitals there. So maybe they had people who, what some localities do is they hire the doctors in the area to diagnose, to work.
What numbers do we have in Region 11? Like what percentage yung mga SPED over the total number of learners?
There's 50,000 there. Of the 440,000 SPED learners nationwide, 50,000 are in Region 11. Kasi
So it's actually bigger. It's not.
it's bigger because they properly diagnose.
Yes, so meaning the
Yes.
total number is probably
Yes.
bigger.
Yes.
No?
Opo.
Probably bigger.
So I think understated yung number.
Okay.
It's possibly understated nationwide, Your Honor.
Okay, so I hope the Secretary can look into this and if we can find the right number before December, baka we can still amend itong wish list po ninyo
Yes. We
and
will.
see if we can support our SPEDs. Because
Yeah.
some data says it's like 5% or 10%. Sabi po ng aking beloved Yusek Oracion na kasama ko po when I was 10 years old at 11 years old. If it's actually 10%, that's 2.3 million out of 23 million. Medyo malaki po talaga, no? So some analysis in terms of if it's 10%, maybe hindi naman 10% of the budget, but a more significant part of the budget probably should go towards our SPED students, Mr. Secretary.
We'll do
And
that.
we're happy to amend
Yes.
and happy
Yes, Your Honor.
to.
That's a great suggestion, Your Honor.
Thank you po. Thank you po.
Thank you, Senator Pam. We recognize the presence of Senator Lauren Legarda, and you can go ahead, ma'am.
Thank you, and thank you, Mr. Chair. We welcome back former Senator Sonny Angara, who is missed in the Senate, but again to the executive department. We welcome the DepEd family as well, and I'm glad that the Chairman of Finance, the EDCOM chairs are present here today, and our questions are simply to be able to find enlightenment and how we can help augment the budget. First, this has been discussed, but I'd like to continue discussing it, the classroom shortage. Every year since 1998, I've been sitting here, the shortage has never been overcome by any administration. And the backlog now is 165,000 classrooms nationwide, but we do not look at this as a mere statistic. It translates to overcrowded classrooms, shifting schedules, and diminished learning opportunities for students. However, I know that the good secretary, as early as the first few months of his tenure last year, and we would like to acknowledge and commend the Department of Education for its proactive efforts in addressing this this issue from long ago. I think it was in September 2024, 2 months after Secretary Angara assumed office, even before the filing of the Classroom Building Acceleration Program, and I hope that this will be enacted into law, DepEd has already been working on solutions to this. Not mere band-aid remedies, but forward-looking initiatives that seek to provide long-term and sustainable relief to our schools. DepEd has pursued public-private partnerships. Not sure if this was discussed in the first 30 minutes. I'd like to know more about this, which opens a way for innovative, climate-resilient, and scalable approaches to classroom construction and rehabilitation. So earlier this year, we know that DepEd has also proposed for flexibility to implement the initiatives, whether it will be GAA-based, DPWH, but there's so much backlog. So thinking out of the box, we can continue with the PPP and LGUs as well to implement it. So we know that DepEd has submitted these proposals to DBM for their NEP. So we see how DepEd tried to innovate on three kinds of solutions to the classroom shortage. So may I know whether this would require a special provision in the GAA so that you are allowed to go into PPP, which you're already doing, or allow LGUs to build it perhaps more efficiently at lower cost, or is it mandatory that DPWH again has to implement this? And I don't know if we have already addressed the elephant in the room, which is the cost per square meter of classrooms. We had a lengthy hearing. I think it was during the DBCC where so many, or was it in the hearing of Senator Pam? There were different stakeholders with 8,000 per square meter to 30 plus thousand. It's difficult to compare apples and oranges, so we have to compare in terms of unit costs or square meters, but even that, it's difficult because we don't know what kind of cement, the depth, the width, etc. So back to my question, the innovations in trying to address or providing a solution to the classroom backlog issue, does this require a special provision? And if so, how would it sound like? And for the PPP proposal or innovation of DepEd, how is it going? And do you see, would the Secretary see more PPPs coming about than DepEd? And as lawmakers, having looked at our NEP and seeing flood control programs which have to be changed in the budget into a menu that the President himself has given Congress, how do you think the DPWH and the other stakeholders would be able to absorb suddenly so much funding given for the classrooms? Yes, it's a long-winded question, but I would like to seek answers from the good Secretary. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. First of all, thank you for your kind words and support. I recall your visit with your son, the very intelligent congressman. Thank you. Madam Chair, we discussed the capacity issue earlier, and we said we may need some help there, especially if we allow the local governments, which is our suggestion. Good morning, Senator Marcoleta. Morning, sir. So if we, there is a special provision in the NEP which expands the construction, because for this year and last year, it was limited to DPWH as the authorized institution who could construct classrooms. So we're trying to move away from that paradigm and create multiple avenues. So it was discussed with the two chairs and now three chairs that it would be better if there are many actors participating. And I think we can even improve on that initial special provision, Madam Chair, by incorporating some of the ideas of Chairman Bam, which is to allow CSOs as well, to allow CSOs or civil society organizations with proven track records in construction. That's something we can add in the special provision. And of course, we support the bill of Senator Bam, Chairman Bam, for classroom acceleration. So it was said earlier, it might make it to the floor simultaneously or parallel with the GAA or the NEP. So whichever goes first, it will,
Yes.
or both those measures moving forward.
Thank you
Your
for
Honor.
that.
Yes.
If the bill is not yet enacted into law by the time we reach the floor in October or November, and we hope there will not be a reenacted budget, so by December the President will sign this, would the special provision suffice? And how would the DepEd treat the sudden increase in your infrastructure DepEd school building program, how would the special provision address that? When it's already in the GAA, then DepEd will select. Would it go to a CSO? Will it be LGU? Will it be PPP with whom? Or DPWH? Who makes that decision on which partner DepEd would have?
It
Thank
would
you.
be DepEd in consultation with lawmakers and with even local chief executives, Your Honor. So parang traffic controller lang si DepEd, and he'll be farming it out because we'll also be downloading resources ideally to local governments and possibly CSOs, Your Honor.
If yes, does it have to be specified in the GAA that this classroom building that we want constructed here, dire need, has to be downloaded to an LGU, or that's DepEd's mandate to decide? Because as you said, it's the first time that there would be a different partners for the classroom constructions.
Yeah, I think it's just one possible avenue, Your Honor, to download it. There's no fixed that this is what we have to do, but it is something we can do, meaning we can download it to LGU. And as mentioned earlier by our other chairs, the LGU can also make counter. We have we're conceptualizing a possible counterparting scheme with local governments based on their ERA or NTA, their tax allotment or their income, Your Honor. So the richer LGUs will have to spend more as a counterpart. Something like that. We're thinking of that, and we're happy to discuss it with you in more detail, Your Honor. But no, it's not automatic that let's say it's in Batangas, the LGU will be the one or the province will build it. I will consult the district congressman where he prefers to lodge, for instance, his classroom allotment. If he wants DPWH or he would like the LGU to undertake it, we are flexible in that regard.
Perhaps not the lawmaker to select which area or which stakeholder. It would be best that if we are allowed to amend the budget, but that would be up to the chair, up to what extent, it would be to the better judgment. I just put this on record. If DepEd is the one that decides, so that there would be less interference on the part of the lawmaker, congressman or senator. So also there would not be any accusation that we had favored a CSO or an LGU or wanted it in the Public Works Department. That's just my take, being very careful, especially amidst the chaos that's happening now in DPWH.
That is well taken, Your Honor. But we will be the final arbiter, I think. But we will consult all the relevant actors.
Okay, not post enactment, not post GAA. Yes,
Definitely not, Your Honor.
I want to put it on record, not post enactment. Yes.
Sorry, may I clarify? So, post enactment meaning pagkatapos nagawa yung GAA, dun pa lang i-identify, right? But no, ng DepEd. DepEd can do that, right? Okay. You're the executive.
Bawal lang sa legislator to.
Yes, tayo hindi.
Opo.
Okay, sige. So in the law, DepEd is the one on top of it.
Yes.
No?
Yes.
Okay, just to clarify that.
Yes.
Very good. We thank you for that. Have you already computed, because based on the NEP, there are flood control projects, which were seen here and by the president, by the executive, which are being realigned to classrooms. Has DepEd already checked more or less how much will be added to its budget so that it would see whether it would have the absorptive capacity to do that? Is there some projection based on the realignments from the flood control NEP budget?
Yes, Your Honor. We've given the committee, because we met with the Chairman Win 2 days ago, and he asked for a menu. If there will be realignments, where could it possibly go? So we've given a menu worth 134 billion approximately, and you're free to just so you know what are the various needs of the department that you could help us with, and we're leaving it. The reason why it's a large amount is because we're leaving it to your discretion to in your best judgment where you want to augment, Your Honor.
And definitely this is not just the construction and rehabilitation of classrooms, but the needs for computers, even for furniture. Yes. And How about teacher positions?
Yes, Your Honor. Kasama rin ho yan.
Mhm.
Merong salaries and benefits, meron hong
Yes.
computerization sa feeding program, meron din ho sa feeding program. Meron din augmentations for the aral law, for vouchers, increase in the vouchers. Kasi there are bills which are proposing, I think that's a bill of our chairpersons, to expand the voucher from the existing junior and senior high to elementary. So that if that happens, we'll need additional funding, Your Honor.
Thank you for those answers. I proceed now to class suspensions. Alam naman natin, hindi lang sa panahon ng tag-ulan, buong taon na ay tag-ulan. So, in light of the recent class suspensions brought about by typhoons, even volcanic eruptions, even earthquakes, etc., that plague the country, I would like to recognize how DepEd ensures that lost days are effectively recovered through your dynamic learning program, the DLP. Provide schools with both the structure and the flexibility in terms of disruption. Under the DLP, the affected schools have the option to conduct makeup classes and to utilize DLP learning activity sheets that ensure students continue their lessons even after the suspensions brought about by this disruption. So it's a practical, it's a forward-looking approach that maintains learning continuity while safeguarding the welfare of students. So I would encourage the DepEd to continue supporting and expanding and institutionalizing this initiative so that more learners across the country may benefit from these positive outcomes. This looks good on paper and conceptually. I'd like to know whether the DLP is done really nationwide, especially in the typhoon-prone areas. What were the challenges that DepEd encountered in trying to effectively implement the make-up classes through the dynamic learning process? Secretary?
Thank you for the question. So regarding the cancellations and DLP, DLP is a multi-awarded program by Dr. Chris Bernido, who piloted it in Bohol about a decade ago, Your Honor, and produced very good results in the province. I think there was no continuity though. I think some political leaders at the time adopted it, but it was abandoned eventually. But some have picked it up. So I think the province of Sarangani is doing DLP. There are some schools in Davao that are doing DLP and they're performing very well, above average. So sabi namin subukan din natin kasi ang difference ng DLP ho sa pangkaraniwang programa ng DepEd pagdating sa pag nagkaroon ng class cancellation, magbibigay ho kami ng worksheets sa bata. I-deliver ho ng bata yon saan ng teacher sa bata. Sa DLP, it's usually just one sheet per subject. At there is merong storya and then it's a little old school, Your Honor, Mr. Chair. Susulat ng bata yon. So part of the theory of DLP is part in the writing process, the retention is better for the child. So it's a little old school because on the one hand we are pushing a lot of internet-based technologies which we discussed like Khan Academy, but on the other hand, when it comes to the lower grade levels, we still believe that there is room for yung pen and paper type of education because you're trying to push comprehension, literacy. So ito po yung sinusubukan namin for our cancellations, and we have a pilot for DLP where we are looking at some of the areas where madalas mag-cancel. So we have 150 schools designated as emergency schools. So we'll let you know, we'll give you the results of this. It's ongoing. Kumbaga, we're getting the results as we speak, Your Honor. Yeah. So on the average,
so it's actually an old program that was not continued but being utilized again now. I thought that it was already being done nationwide when you assumed office a year ago. So they're just pilot. Siguro maganda since tried and tested na in certain constituencies, Secretary. Yes. Why do
there's
we
some
limit it to
resistance to
pilot?
it,
Yes.
Your Honor. So not everyone is a fan. So what we're doing is we were doing a pilot, and if the pilot produces strong results, then perhaps there could be a more robust rollout.
May I know what are the challenges or opposition to the dynamic learning program for makeup classes?
Well, it assumes that the learner is fairly it may not be the best in certain contexts where the foundations of the child are not as strong as we desire. Yeah. So in Bohol, in the Bohol experience, it's proven to be higher or more effective in the higher grades, Your Honor. So yun yung mga independent learners. So we're trying to calibrate our interventions along those lines, what we've seen.
And a district request that the DLP be implemented. You said there are 150 areas. If we believe in the program, they can actually ask DepEd, can you implement this program in this area, this province, this district?
Yes, we'll be happy to work with you on that.
Yes, like kami sa Antique, madalas mabaha, mabagyo. Oo.
Yes, opo.
Pwede rin yun.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Now, I'd like to ask about the last mile schools. I think you said something like the last mile schools don't have to be the last priority. I hope we can really operationalize this statement, which of course we all agree with. There was something that came out in the news. We see it all the time. Students crossing rivers, climbing mountains, hiking
How many?
several kilometers to attend school. Nangyayari sa amin yan sa Antique, nangyayari sa napakaraming probinsya. Hanggang sa Batangas, nakala natin mga syudad na marami pa rin na tinatahak na landas mula sa mga bukid sa bundok. So, there was this Layag Cultural Minority School in Barangay Taclobo, San Fernando, Romblon, I think, which came out in the news. The children had a long journey just to go to school, and if the information is correct, for 5 days, 3 teachers served not only as educators but also as guardians, bringing their own vegetables and rice to sustain themselves and their pupils. These learners belong mainly to the Sibuyan, Tagabukid, Mangyan indigenous community. So I'd like to raise basic questions. Have we already identified, of course you have, the geographically isolated and disadvantaged communities? Do we have the complete numbers? How many learners are being served by a school and how many remain unreached? How are we serving these schools in terms of providing electricity? Is that part of our NEP? Potable or clean water, proper toilets and sanitation, and even internet connectivity. I know this is parang ambisyon na kung lahat bibigyan ng internet, but that would be very, very helpful. So I'd like to know, how are we addressing the last mile schools, and is this a priority in the construction of classrooms, which would include toilet facilities and learning facilities?
Your Honor, it's a priority. The President has made it his priority. There are, I think, 200 or 300 schools to be funded for electrification this year. The first one, we went there with the NEA Administrator Almeda because we signed a MOA with the National Electrification Administration headed by Nani Almeda. And they have a model electrification program for schools, which was developed by Professor Wally Del Mundo of the UP School of Engineering. So it comes out to around, right? First school? 2 to 3? Around 2 to 3 million, I think, if I'm not mistaken, Your Honor. So exactly the school you described in Romblon was the first school we went to in Agusan del Norte, Buena Vista, Agusan del Norte, where we had to cross 2 rivers, Your Honor. At yung naabutan naming principal doon, I think there's only less than 100 or less than 100 students. Natutulog yung mga teacher doon dahil ang hirap bumalik sa munisipyo o sa poblasyon. So doon sila natutulog. So as you mentioned, they act like the guardians or foster parents ng mga estudyante. Kaya nakita ko yung eskwelahan nila, may kusina, may lutuan na on the side. And the nice thing about nung nalaman ni Presidente na mag-inaugurate kami ng electrification, inutusan niya si DICT, led by Secretary Aguda, to provide the internet connectivity. Kaya on the same day, can you imagine a community that had no access to electricity, much less internet, Your Honor, Madam Chair? On the same day, biglang umon yung ilaw at nagkaroon ho sila ng internet. Ang kwento sa amin nung principal, ayaw daw umuwi ng mga bata. Dahil tuwang-tuwa sila. Of course, and then when we did that day, nag-Zoom meeting kami with the President and about a dozen other schools with Governor Angel Amante and Congressman Dale Corvera. Yung mga bata parang hindi sila makapaniwala na nakikita nila si Presidente, nakakausap nila in real time. Nag-Zoom kami. So this is really the wonders of technology. Kaya yung binanggit po ninyo na kapag ma-realign ho yung budget from flood control to school infrastructure, pagkabit ng kuryente, pagkabit ng internet, ay talagang nakita namin matra-transform talaga yung buhay ng mga estudyante. Hindi lang po yung estudyante, pati yung komunidad dahil damay po sila. Damay po yung komunidad dun sa solar energy that is being provided. And it's also more energy efficient. Nakita namin, hindi lang sa mga backward communities, but even in the cities. Alam po ni Senator Sherwin to dahil he was also the chair of energy. Our chair of finance now was also the chair of energy for many years. The solar technology, and you know this because you're very much acquainted with the technology, will allow schools to have air conditioning in their, nababawasan po yung MOO nila. So it's an investment that maybe costs more in the short term, but in the long term will pay dividends. And not only in terms of the yung kaginhawaan, but also in terms of the school results. Kasi proven na yung mas magandang temperatura, mas maganda yung exam results. So,
you're correct when you said that when the children experienced connectivity, ayaw nang umuwi because when Starlink was started in the Philippines maybe 2-3 years ago, and I read it that Starlink has landed. It was in Siargao. The first Starlink, I think, was in Siargao. I'm not sure if it was a school. I immediately tried to find out who was a supplier, and I purchased on my personal account Starlink units. At the time, mahal pa. Enterprise unit piyata, wala pa yung mini Starlink, and donated to schools in Antique. And nakakaiyak at nakakakilabot when we had it set up there. It was in several schools in Gida areas. It's like their lives changed, and it's been like that for the past more than 1 year. Then the next year, I amended the DICT budget to include connectivity without me dictating who's supplier to this kind of technology. Hindi na yung VSAT, but the Starlink satellite technology. There are little problems along the way. When I donated, may subscription. Yung subscription, 4,000 a month. Hindi pa rin kaya ng eskwela. Now there are bills piling up coming to me, millions on the accumulated load or subscription from my donations. At the same time, no, it's a real issue. The DICT Starlink, ang dami, 150 schools and sites times 3 kasi may parang bases pwedeng, so mga 450 sites. After 1 year, the government funding for subscription expired. So they're cut off from the world again. So my question to DepEd is, when we give them through DepEd, who pays for the subscription? I know it's like a housekeeping issue, but I've seen it on the ground, whether it's a personal donation or it's a government donation, the maintenance of the units and yung pagbayad ng load na 4,000 plus a month, you'd be surprised ni hindi kaya ng komunidad o ng eskwela. So yung sinasabi nyong connectivity that DepEd will provide for, we just allow the school, we expect the schools to pay for it, right? It's not an only or forever payment of their subscription or load. Kasi ngayon, ang dami kong bills, millions. Ako sinisingil. Kasi iba yung unit, iba yung monthly dues. Kaya gusto ko malaman sa DepEd, pag magbibigay tayo, and this is in coordination, of course, with the ICT, yes, do we assume that the community or the DepEd schools would have a provision for payment of that?
Opo,
Thank you.
dati kasi mahihirapan ang eskwelahan dahil mababa ang MOE. But for the last 2 years, we've increased the MOE of schools. And this year, the collective increase of the President's budget is over 10 billion for MOE. Just for school MOE alone, Your Honor. So, I think mas nandun na po yung kakayanan para bayaran po yung mga gastusin tulad ng Starlink.
It's a housekeeping issue, but it's a real issue. You'd be surprised for 4,000 a month. Ayan, I just saw the bill actually today. So, tamang-tamang tinatanong ko kayo. Ngayon, you mentioned the ICT. In their NEP, and I will ask them to, did they consult DepEd? Because they have their locations where they will install. Did they actually apportion it or dedicate those budgets in the GIDA areas of the DepEd? Kasi dapat pinaprioritize rin nilang edukasyon at nilalagay nila sa GIDA areas na kailangan ng edukasyon. Saan nila ilalagay yung mga Starlink nila kung meron silang Starlink pa, satellite technology? So I'd like to know, was there close coordination? Because I will ask this of the ICT and I will look at the line items in their provisions if they focused on education in the GIDA areas of DepEd. Because if not, saan na ilalagay yung kanilang mga Starlink technology? I know that the incoming or the secretary now is also an advocate and he's very knowledgeable in this. I just wanted to know if there was close coordination between the two departments so that
Yes.
means your budget is not limited to that. Yung budget ng isang ahensya dapat dedicated sa need ng DepEd.
Yes, Your
Yes.
Honor. In
Thank
fact,
you.
the President instructed both of us to work together to connect the remaining 12,000 schools without connectivity, Your Honor. So the President has given a directive. That's why we've been engaging with the ICT, the Office of Henry, and his Undersecretary.
That's good to hear. That means I will look at their budget and see if the 12,000 schools, that would include, of course, the GIDA areas, no, without connectivity,
Opo.
would be the priority sites of the DICT in the utilization of their funds for satellite technology.
Part of that budget of the 12,000 is lodged with DepEd. Then, but if
Yes.
yun nga, if matuloy ho yung instruction ni Presidente, mas mabilis natin ma-close yung gap, Your Honor.
Thank you for that. I have so many questions. Isang libro ng tanong. Hindi ko alam kung meron 10 minutes rule. Nahihiya naman ako kay Senator Marcoleta. Nandyan. Oo, sigurado ko maraming tanong. So, I'm sorry.
He's giving you 1 hour raw.
Ang bait naman. Favorite ako niya.
Mabait si Senator Marcoleta.
Sige. Huling katanungan sa maraming tanong, then I yield to Senator Marcoleta. Yung ating mga pag-aaral tungkol sa stunting, tungkol sa pagkain, sustansya ng mga bata, program. I'd like to know, how are we in terms of funding and effectively utilizing the funds allocated for the supplemental feeding program? Because I've been to schools na wala talagang pondo for supplemental feeding. And we hear of students really, aside from crossing rivers and walking through paddy fields and mountains to get to school, na ang Tagalog ba, kumakalamansiyan, na mga gutom na hindi nakakapag, they have not eaten. So, it sounds good on paper again, as a law that we authored. But how is a DepEd addressing the problem of hunger for our young students?
Thank you, Madam Chair. And thank you for your support to the feeding program. Ang maganda dito sa feeding program, Mr. Chair, Madam Chair, Your Honor, halos dumoble na yung budget. If you look at the last, maybe previous to last year, or previous to this year, yung average over the last 5 years, siguro nasa 4 or 5 billion yung funding for the program. So, nag-umpisa yan, feeding ka for 60 days. Ho. Eh ngayon, ang budget is for next year is 11.7 billion. Ho. So, you're able to feed for 120 days, which is a big part of the school year, not the entire school year, but definitely natatamaan mo na yung target nung batas on school-based feeding, which is wasted and severely wasted students from kinder to grade 6. And yung innovation namin this year is for the first time, we will do universal feeding sa kindergarten. Ho. So, kasi nga yun yung, kaya pinuri ko tayo ng World Food Program, ng UN, because we've expanded our feeding program. And the President has really been very decisive, not only the school-based feeding, but as you mentioned, the supplemental feeding, which is under the SWD, which is under DOH and the NNC. Lahat yun, nag-meeting siya sa Malacanang at sinabi niya, kayo mag-usap dyan, how can you improve your programs? Kaya dun sa brother ni Chairwin, si Secrex, meron silang food stamps program, meron silang, I forgot the name of their program, but it's an expanded feeding program which is not only tackles wasting but also stunting, and meaning making sure that there is an allotment for vegetables. So hindi lang yung papakainin mo lang basta-basta yung tao, pero making sure the nutrients are correct, Your Honor. So it's a holistic approach at sinama rin namin sa wish list na nabanggit natin kanina kasi ang maganda sana, ang target is mapakain natin yung mga bata for the entire school year. Kasi nakikita namin, pagpasok, tinitimbang ho yung bata, yon kulang sa timbang. Tapos pinapakain mo ng, let's say, 190 in the past 90 days. Gumaganda ang timbang niya. Pero yung per period na walang feeding at saka dun sa summer, bumabalik ho siya sa dati niyang timbang. So parang vicious cycle ho siya. So if we feed for a longer time, then the gains can be sustained, Your Honor. Pero at saka proven talaga yung improved learning outcomes, the linkage to feeding, Your Honor. But
So,
the improvement is greater at lower grade levels. Kaya
So the feeding program is, when you said universal, under DepEd, will be for all kinder students already.
that's a first in our history.
Only
Chair.
for kinder?
Yes.
Or
Yun lang ang kaya ng pondo.
how about grade 1 and 2? They would
It's still the wasted and severely wasted.
only targeted to, which is under the
Kasi we cannot,
The SWD
kung
budget
tatanungin niyo ho
not
kami,
yours. Oo.
Madam Chair, kukunin namin yung pondo sa grade 6 and grade 5, ibababa namin yon dahil mas kailangan ng bata at the younger age. And the effect on the learning outcome is more pronounced at an early age. Kaso hindi namin pwedeng gawin yon kasi ang requirement ng law is you must feed all wasted and severely wasted from kinder to grade 6. So we cannot take it away from the wasted and severely wasted in grade 6.
But for the wasted and severely wasted budgets, that's lodged under the SWD, not DepEd.
Sa amin po yun.
Sa inyo.
DSWD is,
Different.
is the supplemental feeding.
Supplemental.
Sa amin yung school-based feeding.
So universal only for kinder, and for those with problems lang, wasted, etc., would be grade 1 to grade 6. Kinder to grade 6. But kinder will already be universal. Yes. It's a matter of funding. How much funding is needed to be able to feed kinder, grade 1 and 2? And the meals provided for these very young children consulted with the nutritionists, the National Nutrition Council. Are they local gulay? I hope it's not junk food.
Halo-halo ho eh. Merong hot meals, meron ding nutritious food packs. So it's not junk food, Your Honor. Hindi siya chichirya ho. But it is, kasi ang requirement ng
Noodles
batas.
na nakapack na hindi na puro petsin, hindi po ganon.
Noodles. Kung meron, whatever food it is, Your Honor, it's fortified and dumaan ho sa DOST na may nutrients siya. Kasi yun ang requirement ng batas na bago namin pwedeng i-provide sa mga bata, kailangan i-certify na DOST na dumaan ho sa proseso and it's nutrient rich. It's the FNRI, that's the agency in DOST that certifies as to the nutrients. Pero preferably nga hot meals talaga. Yun, nabanggit ho earlier again na one investment that we might want to consider is the central kitchen. So some LGUs like Bataan, like Tarlac City, I think also in Metro Manila, they have central kitchens. I've seen one in Los Baños, Madam Chair, where one school serves multiple, parang hub siya for multiple schools. And the food is prepared there and it's sent out.
This is managed by DepEd.
DepEd in conjunction with LGUs. And we have a lot of localities where Jollibee has partnered with us, Your Honor. They have supplied the central kitchens. Yeah. Yes. It's not fast food though. It's not French fries and the burger. So it's just Jollibee provided the wherewithal to fund the kitchens. But
Okay.
the food is not Jollibee.
But
Your Honor.
not fast food. I have more questions, but I'd just like to convey my support for the budget, and I look forward to the realignment on funds from flood control to construction of classrooms and to the upgrading of our educational systems. I would yield now to Senator Marcoleta and not consume the 1 hour that he granted me. Thank you. Mr.
Thank you.
Thank you very much to our chair of higher education for very good and important questions. Maraming salamat for the support, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Thank you, Senator Lauren Legarda. Let me formally recognize the presence of Senator Marcoleta and you can propound your question, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Konti lang po ang itatanong ko sa inyo, Mr. Secretary.
Morning. Good morning, Your Honor.
Morning, sir. Dito po sa mga TATS agencies po ng DepEd, particularly po itong National Book Development Board. Wala pa pala. So, pero pwede ko na rin itanong.
Kung sasagot ko pero kasi sa House, sabay ho kami nag-hearing. So, ako rin ho
Ang
nag-defend the budget.
tatanong ko lang naman po, yung sagaan niya kasi 2024 ay 239 million. Sagaan niya sa 2025, 348 million. Ang sa NEP po niya ay naging 156.5 na lang. Baka naman po alam niyo yung dahilan kung bakit biglang bumagsak po.
Tumaas ho yung budget nila dahil may Frankfurt Book Fair ho this year. One-time event yun. Yun ang event sponsored by the chairperson, si Senator Lauren. Siya project niya yun to gawing featured country yung Philippines sa Frankfurt Book Fair. That's the biggest event. I yield, Mr. Chair. I yield.
Senator Lauren, you want to?
Maybe the DepEd Secretary can answer, but I would like to, I'm excited to answer that question because it puts on record our support for the biggest, the largest trade fair for the publishing industry in the world. And while this is a very small government agency previously lodged under DTI, now it's under DepEd, it has one of the smallest, lowest budgets. In fact, for the first time, was it last year, we included in the NEP, in the GAA of 2025, a provision for support for our not only Philippine stand, but a 2,000 square meter Philippine pavilion, because after 10 years of working on it since 2015 or 16, we were able to secure finally the guest of honor status, meaning that we are the featured country in the world in the Frankfurter Buchmesse, the second ASEAN country only since Indonesia in 2015. When I learned that Indonesia was the guest of honor country, I asked, why not the Philippines? And so as early as almost 10 years ago, I met with the CEO of Frankfurter Buchmesse, not once, twice, thrice, hosted them in the Philippines on my own personal account. And during the pandemic, requested friends who are in the book industry to submit a nomination or a bid book so that the Philippines could be considered as a guest of honor. It was not easy because when I asked them, FBM, pwede ba, may we do it next year, they would say, oh no, there are many countries already selected. And I said, I will patiently wait. That was in 2017 or 18. Can it be 2019? No, another country. And then the pandemic happened. In 2023, August, the signing agreement between the Philippines and Frankfurter Buchmesse of Germany was finally inked. And since then, we have participated in book fairs, not just in Germany like Leipzig, but in the London Book Fair, in Bologna Book Fair, which has opened really opportunities for publishers, for even comic book writers, the youth, for many creatives in line with the creative industry law, for our literaries, for authors. And on October 14 to 19, the Philippines will be on a global platform. Our publishers, our authors, our creatives, our national artists, two of them are invited and will be there in the Philippine Pavilion, which is called, if I may say the title, The Imagination Peoples the Air, which is a line from the Noli Me Tangere of Dr. Jose Rizal. Note that Dr. Jose Rizal finished the last chapters of the Noli Me Tangere in Germany, notably in Wilhelmsfeld, which is a suburb of Frankfurt where the largest book fair is happening. And the peg of the book fair is The Imagination People's Air from the Noli Me Tangere, but not limited. At the same time, aside from the Philippine stand and the Philippine Pavilion in Goethe Institute, in art space